Good evening and welcome. Tonight we are going to go over the history and geography of Baringo in Kenya. So let's start by zooming out here. You can see Baringo County, and we are in Kenya. Now, if you're not quite sure where Kenya is located, let me show you. So we are, of course, in Africa. I feel like Kenya is one of those countries. If I said name a country in Africa, Kenya might be one of the top ones that pops into your mind because it's just iconically African with the wildlife and history, things like that. Kenya. Plus, it's really fun to say Kenya. It's a pretty name. So, first of all, I should say no maps tonight. I'm going to throw a picture here of what Baringo looks like in my atlas. It's a terrible picture. The place I need to show you the most has the big K for Kenya right smack dab in the middle of it. So I'm like, you know what, let's just make it tablet only. So we'd only be on that map for like 5 minutes anyway before we head to the tablet. So let's just do the tablet. Because what that map doesn't show you, you can see here on Google Earth, because we are in the African Rift Valley. And we are kind of in a special spot here in Kenya where the Rift Valley meets the interior rainforest, central rainforest. So you can really see where the jungle starts to move in on this side and the Rift Valley is over here on this side. Now, I know I mention it almost every time we're in this corner of Africa, but if you haven't seen my other videos, you're wondering, what is the Rift Valley if you've never heard of it? Well, exciting news in plate tectonics. This corner of Africa is ripping off of the mainland, and in what, like 300,000 years or so, is going to be an island. So this part is coming apart from the rest of Africa, and in doing so is creating this huge cut in the continent. And it is creating, in this area at least, lots and lots of lakes. You can see Lake Victoria there. We've got Lake Malawi or Lake Nyasa. Why am I blanking? Lake Tanganyika. Blanking on that one. Too many lakes to talk about. But we also have lakes here in Baringo. And you can see the big one right here is Lake Baringo. If you're wondering why there are so many flamingos in the intro, is because this area has a huge flamingo wintering population. Many, many flamingos come here during the winter time. But you want to know the tragic thing? I tap on this. There are no pictures of Flamingo Gateway. So you just have to use your imagination. Just imagine pink birds as far as the eye can see, okay? Just do that for me. It's a nice image to see. So we have Lake Baringo, and also nearby is, come back, Lake Bogoria. And you can really see from above just how the earth here is slowly but surely cracking apart and becoming very dry and jaggedy, right? You can really see over here. And then you can definitely tell if we head up to Djibouti, Eritrea, where it's happening the most, just how much that landscape is just drying up and ripping apart. All the way down here. You can literally trace it with your finger, can't you? You can just go right where the crack is happening. But here's another interesting geography tidbit about Baringo County, and I have to zoom in to find it. Somewhere over here. I'm never going to find it, am I? At least not with this map. I could if I had my other map. I could find it very easily. Here it is. Equator. So the equator only goes through so many countries, and Kenya is one of them. And this is where the equator runs through. If you don't know, The equator is an invisible line, clearly, because you can't find it, that runs around the very middle of the Earth. So you are at the equator, 0.0 degrees. And I love places like this because there are very few, because the equator mostly runs through ocean, not so much land. So we can imagine the equator coming through there, right? So they named this town Equator because, of course, you have to. I mean, Ecuador made it their whole identity. And I love that. I love things like that. Can I just see? These waterfalls didn't pop up last time I was playing around in this area. I want to see real quick. Chebirara waterfalls. Isn't that pretty? I love waterfalls. That's something I've learned about myself doing these videos, is that no two waterfalls are alike, and there's no such thing as an ugly waterfall. They're all very special, as these guys can attest. I wanted to see that real quick. I also wanted to show you, before I remembered Equator, that this little hot spring here. Because, again, this is the Great African Rift, where the tectonic plates are cracking apart, so you get things like this too. You get lots of volcanic activity, especially over near the DRC, which is not terribly far away from here. It's far, but not as far as it could be. But you also get lots of geothermal activity as well, because all of that pressure, oh, there's our flamingos, fabulous. All of that pressure is rising up from the center of the Earth, creating a fun little hot spring. I imagine this isn't like a Japanese hot spring, like an onsen that you can sit in and enjoy. It looks very hot, doesn't it? The capital, make sure I'm going to find it. There it is Kabarnet. Here is Kabarnet. Look at these caves in a minute, don't let me forget. They're really cool. Kabarnet. Now, how did this town get its name, Kabarnet? Well, I should start off by saying the indigenous people here, there are many, all throughout Kenya and all throughout the many counties of Kenya. But the primary indigenous group of people that live here are known as the Tugen. We're going to look at the Tugen Hills in a minute. The Tugen is a branch of, and I hope I'm saying this right, the Kalenjin. I don't know if I'm saying that right. It feels really wrong, but I don't know. Maybe that's how it's pronounced. I feel like I'm mispronouncing it. The Kalenjin. So, in 1908, an Australian named Albert Edmund Barnett came here to convert the people. And you can see churches here. This area is predominantly Christian. And he built his home in this area. And the word for home in the Tugen language is Ka. So his last name is Barnett. So this was Ka Barnett, or Barnett's house. And that's how we get the name. We can see the museum over here. And I believe that was his home, or where his home was located. I believe. I could be wrong. This isn't the best museum slideshow. Oh, and by the way, you see this big hungry noodle here. There is a snake area of this museum. So if snakes bother you, I've known 2 people in my life that have had severe phobias of snakes. So I always say this. If snakes bother you, turn off your screen for a minute, darken it, whatever you need to do. I'll tell you when the snakes are gone, okay? Lots of some very violent spaghetti in this slideshow. There are turtles too. Turtles are so nice. There's big old chompers here. In fact, if you type in Baringo County in YouTube, he's showing off the turtles. You see, I was like, what are these girls looking at? And you can see them all clustered here. That's a cute photo of all the school children looking at the exhibit. If you type in Baringo County in YouTube, the very first video that pops up is about a snake charmer. Also, look at these beautiful crafts. So I love this necklace, so gorgeous. And it's a story about how the local snake charmer, you can see the python here. The local snake charmer here I believe it was in Kabarnet, had passed away. They had buried him, had a funeral, and this long python, just like this, came out of the forest and was sitting on his grave and wouldn't budge. And it was a news story because it was like the snake has come to mourn the passing of his friend. It's a sweet story. I love snakes. This one looks well fed. I think snakes are beautiful. They're so soft and they're really affectionate and sweet, in my opinion. I adore snakes. Okay, but the snake content is over. So if you needed to, you can turn the screen back on, and there shouldn't be any more snakes here. Okay, let's look at these cool caves. Caprogonia Caves. There's another beautiful waterfall there beside the cave. And you know, we aren't far off from Olduvai Gorge and the Turkana Valley, where many early humans, pre-humans, Australopithecines, and Homo erectus, all those other things that would eventually become humans, lived. So when you see caves like this, you kind of wonder if maybe at some point in history this was home to, once I actually show you the caves, this area, maybe this was a shelter for early, maybe even early Homo sapiens, maybe Homo erectus, Homo habilis, things like that. Because we aren't too terribly far off, and I wonder if any archaeological digs have occurred in these caves, and maybe they would find something interesting. That's what I think, at least. Okay, I was just thinking, like, there's nothing that says Tugen Hills, but there was Morop Hills. But I want to see the Tugen Hills, so I typed it in. Tugen Hills viewpoint. Let's start there. So these are the Tugen Hills, and aren't they beautiful? So gorgeous. And I believe there is lots of hotel stays. I saw a few of them that you can stay at and enjoy this gorgeous, gorgeous scenery. Is that mistletoe? Kind of looks like it. Do they have mistletoe in Africa? I don't know, but it looked like it. Beautiful scenery, isn't it lovely? I wonder if you can see the lake in the distance there. Let's see what this one looks like. Looks like it's on the other side of the hills. Gorgeous. This is a hotel nearby, Tugen Hills Viewpoint. The last interesting fact that I have for you about Baringo County is that Kabarnet was the home of Kenya's second president. His name was Daniel Arap Moi. The first president, of course, was Jomo Kenyatta. Bit of a controversial presidential run because he was like a hero at first and slowly became more and more dictatorial. So when he passed away, Arap Moi was vice president, so he was sworn in like that day. And then when they had the actual elections not long after he was elected president, he was president of Kenya from 1978 to 2002. And he was Tugen. And that was a bit of contention at the time because it wasn't the majority ethnicity of Kenya. And the worry was, oh, is he going to look out for, everyone, or just only stick his neck out for his ethnic group, which has happened in some parts of Africa, but it was kind of a yes and no. Let's see. Make sure you're still on the borders, yeah. I think this area doesn't have a slideshow, which is devastating because look how beautiful it looks. But here's also Kerio Valley National Park. We saw those windy roads from that earlier slideshow. We're way up high. You can see how green this spot is. And that's pretty much all that I have for you in terms of history and geography. The rest of the video is just going to be us playing around on Google Earth and seeing what we can find. Any other interesting slideshows? Let's see. Let's put this in one more time. I don't think Lake Baringo has its own. Oh, there is this island here. I don't think it does, but here's... Oh, there's some more hot springs there. Devil's Island. Dun, 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 dun. Menacing rocky island in the lake. Dun, dun, dun. Let's take a look at this hot spring. Ooh, it's bubbling. Yeah, I think these hot springs would probably be deadly if you tried to soak in them. Some little, looks like little rondavellas here nearby on the island. Big ostrich. The world's largest bird. The beautiful lake there. Yeah, you can tell it's got some kind of mineral content in this lake because look how bright it is compared to the other lakes nearby. Maybe there's a lot of sulfur in this lake or something. Lots of minerals in this water. Let's look at this campsite. Come on, pictures. All right. Let's see if there's any neat things in here. It's going to take a while to load the rest of the pictures because I haven't preloaded them for you guys, but they're kind of flying, aren't they? Oh, how lovely. So yeah, lots of little areas like that. I like this picture. Where you can enjoy the beautiful nature in this region. Kind of a lesser known area of Kenya, right? This looks like a volcano up here. But, oh, it surely is, but it's over the border. But yeah, it's one of the interesting places in Africa where you can actually see the rift happening. You can look at a map and say that's definitely a huge crack in the earth, isn't it? Pretty neat. Let's find one more to round out the video. Let's Aldama Ravine. There we go. I want to see what's in Aldama Ravine. That's such a nice name. Let's see if there's anything interesting here. There's a gas station. Let's close out the video here. Oh, wow. What is that? Those cows? Hold on. What is that? Yeah, they're goats. Those are goats. Oops. Come back, goats. Come back. No, I didn't mean it. There. My goodness. Let me do this so that doesn't happen again. Sorry I called you cows. They are goats. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this style of content, please consider subscribing. Next in my series, we're going to be heading to Bangladesh. We are going to be exploring the mouth of the Ganges, the largest delta in the world. And if you thought it was the Nile Delta, you're very wrong, because the Ganges Delta is absolutely massive, and we're going to explore part of it. So be sure to subscribe so you won't miss out. If you learned anything cool today, give this video a thumbs up. Let me know what you learned down in the comments. And I hope that you have a very good night. Let's highlight Kabarnet as we zoom out. There we go. Good night.